Welcome to Ancient Wisdom. My name is Socrates, and tonight I am going to talk about the story of Aristotle and his student Alexander. But before we begin, I ask only this. Let your shoulders fall. Let your breath slow. Let the noise of your day settle, like sand sinking in clear water. This story is not meant to fill your mind. It is meant to empty it gently so that peace can enter. Tonight, I speak not to your busy thoughts, but to the still listening part of you that has always been there, quietly watching, quietly wondering. You may have heard my name in the marketplace of ideas. Socrates, the old man who asked too many questions, who troubled the powerful, who was condemned to drink hemlock. But the story you will hear tonight is not of trials or death. It is a story of living wisely, of finding calm within confusion, and of learning that truth whispers most clearly when the world grows silent. So rest now. The night is soft in ancient Macedonia. The stars stretch endlessly across a velvet sky. A faint wind moves through the olive trees, and a fire burns low in the courtyard. Beside that fire, two figures sit, one young and filled with questions, the other older, calm and patient. The older man's eyes reflect the firelight like pools of still water. This is Aristotle, the philosopher. And before him sits Alexander, barely more than a boy, yet already carrying the weight of destiny on his narrow shoulders. For years to come, this small circle of light, this quiet space between a teacher and his student, will shape the fate of the world. But neither of them knows that yet. Tonight there is only conversation, and the warmth of the fire. I want you to imagine sitting with them. The smell of burning wood drifts in the air. Crickets hum in the grass beyond. Alexander looks into the flames, his mind restless. He has heard tales of heroes, of kings and gods, of conquests and crowns. He wants to be great. But greatness, he does not yet understand, is not a crown to wear. It is a burden to carry. Aristotle speaks softly, as if speaking not just to the boy before him, but to every heart that ever longed for power or purpose. He says, "To rule the world, my student, you must first rule yourself." The words linger like smoke in the cool night air. They are simple, yet they carry the weight of the universe. Alexander frowns slightly, uncertain what such mastery means. To him, ruling oneself sounds smaller than ruling nations. But Aristotle only smiles, as all teachers smile when they plant a seed that will bloom in time. In the stillness, that seed takes root. I often think of moments like these, small, quiet, almost invisible, when wisdom begins its slow work in the soul. Perhaps you too have known such moments, when a word spoken gently reshapes your way of seeing the world. When understanding dawns not in triumph, but in calm. That is what philosophy truly is, my friend. It is not about grand speeches or clever arguments. It is the art of seeing, of listening, of recognizing what is already within you. It is the patient turning of chaos into clarity, and it begins always with peace. Reason gently guides the heart. The fire in our story flickers lower now. The stars seem closer, as though they are leaning in to listen. Aristotle speaks again, his tone like warm honey poured into the coolness of the night. Alexander, he says, remember this. The mind is a kingdom vast and unruly. To rule it well is the beginning of all greatness. The boy nods, though his eyes still search the flames, dreaming of distant horizons. The teacher knows that wisdom takes time. He does not rush him. He only speaks, softly, steadily, like water shaping stone. And as the fire crackles, the lesson begins. It will take years to unfold, across lands and battles and victories. But tonight it begins here, in the stillness, with a teacher's voice and a student's silence. So rest now. The story is only beginning. Let its rhythm ease your breathing. Let the sound of the firelight calm your thoughts. You are safe here between wisdom and dream. For as Aristotle once guided Alexander, this story too will guide you, gently, patiently, toward the quiet empire that lives within. Close your eyes and breathe, for in the next chapter, the first true lesson will be revealed: reason over rage. The night fades into dawn. Soft light brushes the marble columns of Mysa, where birds begin their morning songs. A young prince walks through the garden, barefoot, restless, his eyes full of curiosity and unspent energy. This is Alexander, still a boy, yet already dreaming of empires. Around him, the world feels alive. The air smells of figs and new grass. A fountain murmurs in the courtyard, and the earth itself seems to hum quietly under the weight of possibility. But the boy's heart is louder than the morning, filled with questions that refuse to be still. He sees a man seated beneath an olive tree, a scroll open in his lap. His robe is simple, his gaze calm, his presence like still water. This is Aristotle, sent from the great city of Athens to guide the son of King Philip, not in war but in wisdom. Alexander pauses, watching the philosopher's hands trace the air as if shaping unseen truths. He has met many teachers before, mathematicians, poets, soldiers. But this one feels different. He does not demand attention, he draws it. The prince steps closer. "Are you the one my father sent?" Alexander asks, his tone half curious, half commanding. Aristotle looks up slowly, and his eyes, deep and serene, meet the boy's. "I am," he says. "And are you the one I must teach to see?" The question confuses Alexander. "To see? I already see." Aristotle smiles faintly. "Do you? Then tell me, what do you see now?" Alexander glances around impatiently. Trees, stones, birds. The philosopher nods. "Good. Now tell me what they mean." The boy frowns. "Mean? They are just things." "Ah," Aristotle says softly, "then you see but you do not understand. That is where our journey begins." The wind moves through the olive leaves, whispering its timeless song. The boy sits beside the teacher, half out of curiosity, half from pride, for a prince should not appear disinterested. Aristotle says nothing for a long while. He lets the silence stretch, lets the boy grow uncomfortable in his waiting. Finally, Alexander breaks the stillness. "Why don't you speak?" "I am waiting for you to listen," Aristotle replies. The boy blinks. "To what?" "To everything." And so they sit, the young student fidgeting, the teacher quiet as stone. The air hums with bees. A shepherd's voice drifts faintly from the hills. The fountain's trickle becomes steady, hypnotic. Minutes pass. Then something within Alexander shifts. The noise in his thoughts softens. He notices for the first time how the light touches each leaf differently. How a bird dips low to drink from the fountain. How the breeze cools the sweat on his neck. When he finally speaks again, his voice is calmer. "It's beautiful here." Aristotle's eyes brighten. "Now you are beginning to see." That morning marks the true beginning of Alexander's education, not in numbers or names but in awareness. Aristotle teaches him that wisdom is not memorized but discovered, It is not taken from scrolls, but from the world itself. Every leaf, every sound, every pause contains a lesson, if one learns to listen deeply enough. He shows the boy how nature itself is a teacher, how the ant labors without pride, how the river yields yet carves mountains, how the sky moves without hurry yet never stops. These, says Aristotle, are truths your father's armies cannot conquer. Alexander tilts his head. And what use are they to a king? To remind him that the world does not belong to him, the philosopher answers gently, but that he belongs to the world. The prince does not reply. He looks out at the hills where morning mist drifts like pale silk. For the first time he feels small, not in weakness but in wonder. As the day warms, Aristotle rises. He dusts his robe and begins to walk the path toward the grove. "Come," he says, "let us continue our lesson." Alexander follows. "Where are we going?" he asks. Aristotle glances back. "To learn how to rule." "Rule?" The boy's eyes brighten. "You mean kingdoms?" The teacher smiles. "No, something far greater, yourself." The prince laughs softly, unsure whether this is wisdom or jest. But he walks beside the philosopher anyway, as sunlight filters through the leaves and the distant hills glow gold. That was how all great learning begins, not with commands, not with answers, but with the stillness that lets a question take root. And so begins the first true lesson, that before one can rule others, one must learn to rule the chaos within. The garden fades. Night returns. The fire crackles again, steady and low. I, Socrates, speak softly now, for the lesson that comes next is one every soul must face, in its own time and its own heart. Reason over rage. When he finally speaks again, his voice is calmer. "It's beautiful here." Aristotle's eyes brighten. "Now you are beginning to see." That morning marks the true beginning of Alexander's education, not in numbers or names, but in awareness. Aristotle teaches him that wisdom is not memorized but discovered. It is not taken from scrolls but from the world itself. Every leaf, every sound, every pause contains a lesson, if one learns to listen deeply enough. He shows the boy how nature itself is a teacher, how the ant labors without pride, how the river yields yet carves mountains, how the sky moves without hurry yet never stops. These, says Aristotle, are truths your father's armies cannot conquer. Alexander tilts his head. And what use are they to a king? To remind him that the world does not belong to him, the philosopher answers gently, but that he belongs to the world. The prince does not reply. He looks out at the hills where morning mist drifts like pale silk. For the first time he feels small, not in weakness but in wonder. As the day warms, Aristotle rises. He dusts his robe and begins to walk the path toward the grove. "Come," he says, "let us continue our lesson." Alexander follows. "Where are we going?" he asks. Aristotle glances back. "To learn how to rule." "Rule?" The boy's eyes brighten. "You mean kingdoms?" The teacher smiles. "No, something far greater, yourself." The prince laughs softly, unsure whether this is wisdom or jest. But he walks beside the philosopher anyway, as sunlight filters through the leaves and the distant hills glow gold. That was how all great learning begins, not with commands, not with answers, but with the stillness that lets a question take root. And so begins the first true lesson, that before one can rule others, one must learn to rule the chaos within. The garden fades. Night returns. The fire crackles again, steady and low. I, Socrates, speak softly now, for the lesson that comes next is one every soul must face, in its own time and its own heart. Reason over rage. The sun has fallen again beyond the Macedonian hills. The stars shimmer faintly above the groves, and the fire between teacher and student glows low and warm. Crickets sing their slow, unending rhythm. The night feels endless, calm, breathing, as though the world itself has leaned in to listen. Aristotle sits still, eyes reflecting the small flame before him. Alexander, restless as ever, pokes a stick into the fire. Sparks rise and vanish. His mind is far away, imagining battles, glory, the sound of armies marching. But Aristotle's voice interrupts his daydream. Tell me, Alexander, he begins gently, what is the greatest enemy of a king? The boy thinks quickly. Another king, he says. Aristotle smiles. And yet a wise king may defeat 10 others and still be lost. Try again. Alexander leans forward, thinking harder. Betrayal? Fear? The philosopher shakes his head. Rage. The word lands softly, yet it cuts through the still air like a blade. Alexander frowns. Rage? But rage drives courage. Rage wins wars. Aristotle's smile fades into patient seriousness. My student, rage wins battles, but reason wins kingdoms. Rage burns hot and blinds the eye. Reason burns slow and lights the path. He reaches into the fire with a small branch, pulling out a coal and letting it rest in the sand. Look, he says. This coal burns bright, fierce, and short. It gives great light for a moment, then dies. That is rage. Then he gestures toward the steady log beside it, glowing, alive, yet slow and enduring. This is reason. It warms but does not destroy. A ruler must be like this, patient, enduring, and steady. Alexander watches the two fires flicker side by side. The boy says nothing. Aristotle continues, his tone soft but firm. Many men believe strength is found in the shout, the strike, the impulse. But the strongest mind is the one that pauses before it acts. When anger rules the heart, wisdom cannot enter. And when wisdom leaves, ruin soon follows. The night deepens. Wind moves through the trees like a slow breath. Alexander feels something stir within him. A quiet shame, perhaps, or realization. He remembers the times he shouted at servants, the times he let pride take his voice. He has seen his father's anger too, blazing across the halls like a storm. He wonders if all power must come with fury. Aristotle seems to sense his thoughts. Tell me, he asks, what is the difference between a storm and a river? Alexander looks puzzled. They both move. They both have power. Yes, the philosopher says. But the storm destroys. The river shapes. The boy nods slowly, still watching the flames. He begins to understand, not with his mind, but with something deeper, quieter. Rule first the kingdom within you, Aristotle says at last. For a man who cannot govern himself is unfit to govern others. The words settle in the air like dust, fine and golden. Alexander feels their weight. He does not fully grasp them yet, but they stay, as wisdom often does, in silence, waiting to bloom when the heart is ready. Aristotle leans back, gazing up at the constellations. Even emperors, he murmurs, must bow before reason. The boy looks at his teacher, his firelight face half in shadow. Have you ever been angry, master? Aristotle smiles faintly. Of course, but I do not become my anger. I study it. Alexander tilts his head. Study it? Yes, the philosopher replies. When you feel anger rise, do not feed it. Observe it. Ask why it came. Anger is a teacher too, but it demands distance to be understood. The lesson sinks deep. The fire pops softly. In the stillness, even the night seems to hold its breath. Finally, Aristotle rises. He picks up a jug of water and pours it slowly over the fire until only smoke remains. The faint hiss fills the air like a sigh. Remember this sound, he tells Alexander. This is what wisdom does to rage. The boy watches the last curls of smoke drift upward, pale against the darkness. He understands more than he can say. He feels smaller but steadier, as if something wild inside him has taken its first calm breath. Later that night, when the world is silent again, Alexander lies awake beneath the open sky. The words echo in his mind, "Rule first the kingdom within you." He does not yet know that this battle, the battle against himself, will follow him all his life. But for now he lets the thought rest. The stars blink slowly overhead, patient and eternal. And as his eyes grow heavy, the whisper of his teacher returns like a lullaby. Even emperors must bow before reason. Sleep now, traveler. The lesson of rage and reason is the first gate to wisdom. And when dawn rises again, the young prince will learn another truth, that all greatness must walk the narrow bridge between too much and too little. The next lesson, the golden mean. Morning returns to Mysa. The first light spills across the hills like liquid gold, and the air smells of earth after dew. Birds stir in the olive branches, and from a distant field comes the soft rhythm of a shepherd's flute. It is a peaceful world, but peace, like wisdom, must be learned. Alexander walks beside his teacher along the stone path that winds between the trees. The boy is quiet today, still carrying the weight of last night's lesson. He had dreamed of flames and calm rivers, of anger fading into reason. He does not yet know what it all means, but something inside him has begun to settle. Aristotle notices the silence and smiles. "Good," he says softly. "You are learning to think between words." Alexander looks up. "What does that mean?" "It means," the philosopher replies, "that wisdom often lives in the space before we speak." They walk a while longer. The philosopher stops beside a fig tree heavy with fruit. He picks one and holds it in his hand. "Do you see this fruit, Alexander?" The boy nods. "Yes." "Tell me what happens if it is picked too early?" "It is sour." "And if left too long?" "It rots." Aristotle smiles. "Exactly. Virtue, my student, is like this fig. It ripens between two extremes." He begins to draw a circle in the dirt with his staff. "In every choice," he says, "there are two dangers, too much and too little. Courage lies between cowardice and recklessness. Generosity lies between greed and waste. Even joy must balance between indulgence and denial." He looks up at the prince. "This balance, this golden middle, is the path of harmony. The wise man seeks it in all things." Alexander crouches beside him, studying the circle. He traces it with his finger as if it were a map. "But how do you find the middle?" he asks. Aristotle chuckles softly. "By walking both edges and learning where you fall." The boy frowns. "So, we must err to learn what is right?" "Yes," Aristotle says, "but with awareness. To fall is not failure. It is instruction." They sit beneath the fig tree for a long while. The shade moves slowly, and the sound of the stream hums like a soft pulse. Aristotle begins to tell stories of heroes and fools, of men who reached too high or sank too low. One chased glory until he lost his soul. Another feared failure until he never truly lived. Both, he says, forgot the center. Alexander listens, his eyes half closed. He thinks of his father, bold, fierce, sometimes cruel. He thinks of his mother, sharp-tongued, proud, and watchful. He wonders if he too must live between them, one pulling toward conquest, the other toward destiny. He wonders if the middle can exist between ambition and calm. Aristotle seems to sense his thoughts again. The hardest balance, he says quietly, is between strength and gentleness. The world often mistakes noise for power, but stillness too has its might. The boy glances toward him. And what if the middle feels small? What if I want more? Aristotle smiles knowingly. Then your lesson is patience. Even greatness, he says, requires balance. The day drifts gently on. They walk to the edge of a meadow where sunlight dances on the water. Aristotle bends to pick a smooth stone from the stream and hands it to Alexander. Hold this, he says. What do you notice? It's cool, the boy replies. Yes, the water keeps it so, because it moves around it without fighting. Be like the water, Alexander. Touch everything but cling to nothing. The boy rolls the stone between his fingers, feeling the polish that only time and motion could create. He slips it into his pouch without a word. Some lessons are not meant to be spoken. They are meant to be carried. When evening falls, they return to the grove. The air grows soft, painted with orange and rose. The philosopher sits once more by the fire. Alexander gazes into the glow, lost in thought. Tell me, my student, Aristotle says, what did you learn today? Alexander thinks a moment. That every choice has a middle, he says, and that wisdom lives there. Aristotle nods. Yes, but remember, the middle is not always safe or easy. Sometimes it is the narrow bridge between chaos and order. Walk it with care, and it will carry you far. The prince smiles faintly. He does not yet see how far that bridge will take him, across deserts and oceans, through triumph and loneliness. But for now, beneath the quiet stars of Mysa, he feels a stillness that was not there before. Socrates' voice softens. And so the boy learned that balance is the true crown of kings. For the mind, like the world, thrives only when it stands between too much and too little. The night deepens. The fire sighs. And as you too drift into calm, remember, there is a golden mean in all things, even in the heart that listens. Rest now, for the next dawn will bring another lesson, the nature of kingship. Aristotle seems to sense his thoughts again. The hardest balance, he says quietly, is between strength and gentleness. The world often mistakes noise for power, but stillness too has its might. The boy glances toward him. And what if the middle feels small? What if I want more? Aristotle smiles knowingly. Then your lesson is patience. Even greatness, he says, requires balance. The day drifts gently on. They walk to the edge of a meadow where sunlight dances on the water. Aristotle bends to pick a smooth stone from the stream and hands it to Alexander. Hold this, he says. What do you notice? It's cool, the boy replies. Yes, the water keeps it so, because it moves around it without fighting. Be like the water, Alexander. Touch everything but cling to nothing. The boy rolls the stone between his fingers, feeling the polish that only time and motion could create. He slips it into his pouch without a word. Some lessons are not meant to be spoken. they are meant to be carried. When evening falls, they return to the grove. The air grows soft, painted with orange and rose. The philosopher sits once more by the fire. Alexander gazes into the glow, lost in thought. "Tell me, my student," Aristotle says, "what did you learn today?" Alexander thinks a moment. "That every choice has a middle," he says, "and that wisdom lives there." Aristotle nods. "Yes, but remember, the middle is not always safe or easy. Sometimes it is the narrow bridge between chaos and order. Walk it with care, and it will carry you far." The prince smiles faintly. He does not yet see how far that bridge will take him, across deserts and oceans, through triumph and loneliness. But for now, beneath the quiet stars of Mysa, he feels a stillness that was not there before. Socrates' voice softens. And so the boy learned that balance is the true crown of kings. For the mind, like the world, thrives only when it stands between too much and too little. The night deepens. The fire sighs. And as you too drift into calm, remember, there is a golden mean in all things, even in the heart that listens. Rest now, for the next dawn will bring another lesson, the nature of kingship. The night is cool again. The moon hangs low above the groves, bathing the stone paths in pale silver. Alexander and Aristotle sit together beside a small stream, its water gliding softly over smooth stones. The boy's posture is taller now, his voice quieter. The restlessness of earlier days has softened, shaped by patience. Aristotle watches him for a while, saying nothing. Then, with the faintest smile, he asks, "Tell me, Alexander, what do you think it means to be a king?" The boy looks up, surprised by the question. He answers quickly, the way young minds do when certain of themselves. "It means to rule men, to command, to lead armies." The philosopher nods slowly. "And if men obey you out of fear, are you their king or their jailer?" Alexander hesitates. He frowns, staring into the running water. He has never thought of it that way before. Aristotle continues, his voice soft and steady. "Power may begin with command, but kingship begins with care. A true ruler must serve the law as a shepherd serves his flock, not by force but by harmony." The boy stirs uneasily. Harmony? But how can a king be gentle in a world of enemies? The teacher leans back against a tree, eyes half closed. "Gentleness is not weakness, Alexander. It is strength controlled. Even the sea, with all its might, holds itself within its shores. So too must a ruler hold his strength within justice." The words linger like mist. Alexander picks up a leaf that has drifted into the stream. He watches it swirl and disappear beneath the current. He wonders whether power can ever truly be calm. They walk through the grove. Owls call softly from the branches above. The air smells of pine and damp earth. Aristotle stops before a small statue of Apollo standing in the moonlight. "Do you know why the ancients built their gods in stone?" he asks. Alexander shakes his head. "To remind themselves," Aristotle says, "that perfection does not live in men. The god stands still, calm, unmoving. The human heart burns with motion and desire. The task of a king is not to become a god, but to rule the human fire with divine restraint." He looks at the boy with quiet affection. The law must rule above the king. For when the king becomes the law, tyranny begins. They reach the edge of the grove. Below them, the land stretches wide. Hills, fields, rivers, all sleeping under the moon. In the distance, torches glow from the palace. "Look," Aristotle says. All this one day will answer to your name. But remember, the world is not yours to possess, only yours to guide. A kingdom is not measured by its borders, but by its balance. Alexander's eyes trace the horizon. He feels both wonder and unease. The weight of future power presses faintly on his young shoulders. Aristotle places a hand on his arm. When you rule, there will be those who flatter you, those who fear you, and those who will die for you. Do not love any of them too quickly. Seek instead the one thing that never bends to favor, truth. Alexander looks at him. And if truth turns against me? Then, Aristotle says gently, you will have ruled rightly even in loss. The moon climbs higher. The fire back at the garden flickers weakly, waiting for their return. They walk in silence, the teacher and the prince, one guiding, one learning, both changed. When they reach the courtyard, Alexander kneels beside the fire, adding small branches until the flame steadies again. He watches it rise, steady and controlled. Is this what you meant by harmony? He asks. Aristotle nods. Yes. The flame that serves, not consumes. He gazes into the boy's thoughtful face. You will rule great lands, Alexander. You will command many men. But remember, every throne rests upon a fragile thing, the trust of the people. Lose that and even gold becomes dust. Later, as the fire burns lower, the boy whispers, Master, do you think I will be a good king? Aristotle studies him for a long moment. Then he says, you will be the king your mind allows and the man your heart permits. He pauses, the faintest sadness in his eyes. Learn to serve wisdom before you command others, and the world will follow you willingly. Alexander nods slowly. He does not answer. He only listens to the night, to the water, the trees, the whisper of fire, and feels that something vast and quiet has entered him. Socrates' voice returns, calm and low, and thus the prince began to see that kingship is not the power to command, but the patience to understand. The crown is not a prize of glory, but a weight of responsibility. And harmony, not conquest, is the highest throne. Rest your mind now, traveler. Let the sound of the night settle your thoughts. For in the next lesson, Aristotle will open a gentler world still, a world not of power or rule, but of wonder. Morning comes softly like breath over the mountains. The sky unfolds in pale gold, and the groves of Mysa awaken under the hush of dawn. Dew sparkles on every leaf. The air is cool, carrying the scent of cypress and honey. It is the kind of morning that does not ask to be admired, it simply is. Aristotle walks ahead of his young pupil, his pace unhurried. He carries no scrolls today, no instruments, no books, only a small satchel and a calm mind. Alexander follows, curious. Master, he says, you have not spoken of lessons since last night. Are we to study nothing today? Aristotle smiles faintly. Oh, we are studying. But today our classroom has no walls. They step into a meadow alive with sound. Bees hum among the blossoms. A lark rises suddenly into the air, its song bright and clear. The prince looks around, puzzled but intrigued. What do we study here? Life, Aristotle replies simply. He kneels beside a patch of grass and parts it gently. Every living thing, he says, has its reason for being. To understand them is to understand life itself. Alexander crouches beside him, watching the blades sway. The philosopher points to a small ant carrying a crumb twice its size. See how it works, not for glory, not for gold, but for necessity. It knows its purpose and asks no more. Then he gestures to a butterfly resting on a flower. It lives but a short while. Yet in that time, it fulfills its nature perfectly. So tell me, Alexander, which is greater, the short life well lived or the long one wasted? The boy stares at the delicate creature. Its wings shimmer, and for a moment, time seems to pause around it. I suppose the one well lived, he says softly. Aristotle nods. Then remember, greatness is not length, but depth. They walk farther, where an old olive tree bends over a small stream. Aristotle plucks an olive and rolls it between his fingers. Do you know, Alexander, that even this tree has taught men philosophy? Its roots remind us to endure. Its fruit reminds us to nourish. Its shade reminds us to give. Alexander looks at the river, its gentle flow catching bits of sunlight. He dips his hand into it, feeling the cool rush between his fingers. It never stops moving, he says. No, Aristotle answers, and yet it is never in haste. That is nature's wisdom, motion without restlessness. They spend the day wandering the hills. Aristotle names the plants and their uses: sage for healing, thyme for courage, fig leaves for shade. He shows the prince how bees build their hives with perfect geometry, how birds shape their nests according to instinct, not thought. He explains that observation is the first act of wisdom. To see clearly, he says, is the beginning of knowing. And knowing, he adds with a smile, is the beginning of wonder. Alexander listens in quiet fascination. This is not the kind of learning he expected. He had imagined philosophy to be about gods or logic or fate. But here, in the rustle of trees and the hum of insects, he feels something truer, that knowledge is not apart from life but woven into it. When the sun begins to sink, they rest upon a rock overlooking the valley. Below them, shepherds lead their flocks homeward. Smoke rises from the village fires in the distance. The world glows with that brief, sacred light that belongs only to evening. Aristotle speaks again, his tone reflective. Look at all this, Alexander. Every creature moves in its own harmony, the bee, the bird, the man. Disrupt one thread and the whole tapestry trembles. That is the order of nature, and the lesson of philosophy, to live as part of it, not apart from it. The prince nods slowly. He feels small again as he had under the stars the night before. But this time the feeling brings peace, not shame. He realizes that wisdom is not found in ruling life, but in understanding it. As dusk settles, Aristotle rises. Come, he says, our lesson is done for today. Alexander lingers a moment longer, looking at the wide living world. He sees in it a mirror of himself, striving, learning, moving always toward purpose. And for the first time he feels not the hunger to conquer, but the desire to comprehend. They walk back through the fields, the scent of lavender in the cooling air. Fireflies flicker between the reeds, tiny stars of the earth. Aristotle's robe brushes the grass with each step. Neither of them speaks. The silence between them is full, a silence that understands. And as you too listen in the quiet of this night, perhaps you feel it, that same calm knowing that life is full of hidden meanings, that nothing in this world is without purpose, and that wonder itself is a kind of wisdom. Socrates' voice drifts like wind through olive leaves. Years later, when Alexander's armies crossed into Asia, he sent strange animals and plants back to his old teacher, the gifts of curiosity, not conquest. For though he learned to rule men, it was nature that first taught him to see. Rest now, traveler. Let the earth beneath your dreams be calm. For tomorrow's lesson burns brighter. the lesson of power and how to hold fire without being consumed. The night deepens. Clouds drift lazily across a pale moon, and the courtyard is quiet except for the slow, steady crackle of fire. Alexander sits close to it, his face lit by shifting orange light. The warmth paints his features with both strength and uncertainty, a young man standing at the border between learning and ambition. Aristotle sits across from him, calm as ever. The shadows between them dance like thoughts not yet spoken. At last, the philosopher says, "Tonight, my student, we must speak of the most dangerous gift the gods ever gave to man, power." Alexander looks up, alert. Power? Yes, Aristotle says softly, for it burns like fire. And fire, as you know, gives life, but it also consumes. He picks up a small branch and places it into the flames. It catches quickly, glowing bright before fading to ash. Power, he says, is much the same. It begins as light, useful, guiding, creative. But if not contained by justice, it devours everything around it, and finally, the one who holds it. Alexander leans forward, mesmerized by the dancing light. He feels the truth of those words, though part of him resists them. Is power not meant to be used? He asks. Aristotle nods. It must be used. But the wise man rules power as a rider guides a horse, not with anger nor with pride, but with restraint. Unbridled, it will throw him. Too tightly held, it will stop. Balance again, my prince, always balance. The fire snaps softly. Sparks rise into the dark like fleeting stars. Alexander's thoughts drift far beyond Mysa, to cities, armies, banners. He imagines himself leading men, shaping the world, leaving his name across continents. Something fierce stirs within him, the ancient call of destiny. Aristotle watches him closely, seeing the fire that glows not just in the hearth, but in the boy's heart. He speaks gently, almost to himself. There is a kind of power that conquers lands and a greater one that conquers the self. Alexander looks at him, the reflection of the flame in his eyes. Which is greater, master? The second, Aristotle replies. 4 kingdoms rise and fall with time, but a man who masters his own strength rules forever. The night wind grows stronger, rustling the trees. Aristotle draws his cloak tighter. Let me tell you a story, he says. There was once a man who found fire in the forest. He rejoiced, for it warmed him and kept the beasts away. But soon he grew proud. He built great flames to show his strength, until the fire leapt high and swallowed his house. And when dawn came, he sat among ashes, shivering. He pauses, then adds quietly, "Do not build your greatness upon the flames of your own pride." The sun has risen again over Mysa. It spills across the marble courtyards in ribbons of gold and white, glinting off the leaves of the olive trees. The morning air hums with the gentle buzz of bees, the soft shuffle of sandals, and the quiet murmur of a fountain. It is a day for listening, and for learning how words, like seeds, can change the world. Aristotle stands at the edge of the courtyard, a simple scroll in hand. Alexander sits on a low stone bench, his expression sharp, his hands clasped loosely. He has learned of balance, of power, of reason. Now his teacher says it is time to learn how to speak. A leader, Aristotle begins, must move men not by fear but by reason. He looks at the prince carefully. Do you understand why? Alexander tilts his head. Because fear fades when danger passes? Good, the philosopher says. and because fear divides but reason unites. He steps closer, lowering his voice. Words are bridges. They can carry truth across the chaos of hearts, or they can build walls of confusion and pride. Every king must decide which to build. The boy nods, thoughtful. He has seen his father roar like a lion and command obedience, but he has never seen him persuade. Aristotle walks slowly around the courtyard, his sandals whispering on the stone. Speech, he says, is not the noise of the mouth. It is the voice of the soul. And the soul must be clear before it speaks, for words reveal what the heart conceals. He stops beside a pool of still water and gestures toward it. Look, he says. When the surface is calm, you see your reflection clearly. When it trembles, all form is lost. So too is the mind. If you would speak truth, calm your thoughts first. Alexander leans over the water. He sees his own reflection, wavering, uncertain, shifting with the wind. Then I must learn to still my mind, he says quietly. Yes, Aristotle replies. For a wise tongue grows only from a quiet heart. They spend the day walking together through the shaded paths of the garden. Aristotle recites lines from Homer, showing how the rhythm of words carries feeling deeper than sense. He teaches the prince how tone can inspire, how silence can strengthen a thought more than noise ever could. Never rush your speech, he says. Let your words breathe. Let them rest in the listener's mind like ripples in water. Alexander practices speaking softly to the air, testing the weight of phrases, the rise and fall of sentences, the power that rests not in shouting but in sincerity. As the sun lowers, they stop by the amphitheater where the marble steps glow with evening light. Aristotle sits upon one, gesturing for Alexander to stand before him. Now, he says, speak to me as you would to your soldiers one day. The prince hesitates, then lifts his chin. He looks at the empty rows of stone before him and imagines them filled with faces of men waiting to be led. His voice begins uncertainly, my friends, the battle is before us. He stops. The words feel hollow, distant. He looks at Aristotle. They sound false. Because you speak from pride, the teacher says gently. Speak instead from purpose. Alexander closes his eyes. He thinks of his lessons, of rivers, fire, balance, patience. When he speaks again, his tone is lower, slower. My friends, he says, what we fight for is not conquest but meaning, not for gold but for glory that lives in the mind and heart. The words settle in the air like a quiet vow. Even the wind stills. Aristotle smiles faintly. Now, he says, you speak. As they walk home through the dimming light, Aristotle places a hand on his pupil's shoulder. Remember, he says, words are not weapons but tools. They can build peace, command loyalty, even heal sorrow. But if used carelessly, they wound deeper than swords. Alexander nods slowly. He feels the truth of it in his chest, that language is power greater than armies, for it can lead hearts without lifting a blade. Later that night, the young prince sits by the window of his chamber. The moonlight spills across the scrolls beside him. He whispers softly, testing new words, listening to the sound of his own voice until it no longer trembles. When he closes his eyes, he dreams not of battle, but of speeches, words like arrows, not to pierce, but to guide. Socrates' voice returns, soft as a breath. And so Alexander learned to shape thought into command and command into unity. When he spoke, whole armies listened, not because they feared him, but because his words carried reason, purpose, and calm. You too, dear listener, hold such a gift. Your voice can carry peace or pain, truth or vanity. Speak gently, and even the world will lean to hear. Now rest. The night grows kind, and the next lesson awaits. A lesson of oneness where power, wisdom, and speech meet the horizon of humanity. The next dawn will bring the unity of mankind. Dawn breaks over the Macedonian hills, a slow silver light spreading across the horizon. Mist rises from the valleys like the breath of the earth, and the air carries a soft stillness, the kind that seems to hold a secret. Alexander and Aristotle walk in silence through the morning fields. The grass is wet against their sandals. The sky above them glows with that pale, infinite calm that comes before the world begins to stir. It is a day unlike the others. There are no scrolls, no speeches, no measured lessons. Only distance, quiet, and the open world before them. After a long time, Aristotle speaks. Alexander, tell me, he says, what divides one man from another? The prince thinks a moment. Land, he says, and blood, and language. Aristotle nods gently. Yes, those are the surface things. But what lies beneath them? Alexander frowns. I don't understand. Then look closer, says the philosopher, gesturing around them. The earth beneath your feet is the same earth beneath another's. The air you breathe is the same air that fills your enemy's lungs. The blood that moves through you moves red through all men. So I ask again, what truly divides us? The boy is silent. He searches for an answer, but none comes. Aristotle smiles softly. Nothing, he says. Only the stories we tell ourselves. They reach a ridge overlooking the valley. Below, shepherds guide their flocks, calling out in words the prince does not know. Yet the tone, the care, the rhythm, is familiar. He realizes he understands not through meaning but through feeling. Wisdom, Aristotle says quietly, is not Greek alone. Seek it in every people. Truth wears many faces, and not all speak your tongue. Alexander listens. The words echo in him like a prayer. For the first time, his dreams of conquest begin to shift, not as a hunger for dominion, but as a longing for connection. What if, he says slowly, a world without division could exist? One where men are not called Greek or Persian or Egyptian, but simply human. Aristotle looks at him with gentle pride. Then you would not be merely a conqueror, my student. You would be a unifier of souls. They sit beneath a tall plane tree. The leaves whisper softly in the breeze, 1,000 small voices speaking in harmony. The philosopher draws a circle in the dirt with his staff, one endless, unbroken line. This, he says, is mankind. Every man a part of the whole, each circle touching the next. To harm one is to shake them all. Alexander studies the circle, his eyes wide with quiet awe. But the world doesn't see that, he says. Dawn breaks over the Macedonian hills, a slow silver light spreading across the horizon. Mist rises from the valleys like the breath of the earth, and the air carries a soft stillness, the kind that seems to hold a secret. Alexander and Aristotle walk in silence through the morning fields. The grass is wet against their sandals. The sky above them glows with that pale, infinite calm that comes before the world begins to stir. It is a day unlike the others. There are no scrolls, no speeches, no measured lessons. Only distance, quiet, and the open world before them. After a long time, Aristotle speaks. Alexander, tell me, he says, What divides one man from another? The prince thinks a moment. Land, he says, and blood, and language. Aristotle nods gently. Yes, those are the surface things. But what lies beneath them? Alexander frowns. I don't understand. Then look closer, says the philosopher, gesturing around them. The earth beneath your feet is the same earth beneath another's. The air you breathe is the same air that fills your enemy's lungs. The blood that moves through you moves red through all men. So I ask again, what truly divides us? The boy is silent. He searches for an answer, but none comes. Aristotle smiles softly. Nothing, he says. Only the stories we tell ourselves. They reach a ridge overlooking the valley. Below, shepherds guide their flocks, calling out in words the prince does not know. Yet the tone, the care, the rhythm, is familiar. He realizes he understands not through meaning but through feeling. Wisdom, Aristotle says quietly, is not Greek alone. Seek it in every people. Truth wears many faces and not all speak your tongue. Alexander listens. The words echo in him like a prayer. For the first time, his dreams of conquest begin to shift, not as a hunger for dominion, but as a longing for connection. What if, he says slowly, a world without division could exist? One where men are not called Greek or Persian or Egyptian, but simply human. Aristotle looks at him with gentle pride. Then you would not be merely a conqueror, my student. You would be a unifier of souls. They sit beneath a tall plane tree. The leaves whisper softly in the breeze, 1,000 small voices speaking in harmony. The philosopher draws a circle in the dirt with his staff, one endless, unbroken line. This, he says, is mankind. Every man a part of the whole, each circle touching the next. To harm one is to shake them all. Alexander studies the circle, his eyes wide with quiet awe. But the world doesn't see that, he says. No, Aristotle agrees. But the wise man must see what others do not. When you stand before another, do not see his city or his flag. See his breath, his hunger, his longing for peace. Those are the same in all. A shepherd passes nearby, leading his flock. He greets them in his native tongue, and Alexander answers clumsily in his own. They both laugh, different words, same joy. The sound feels ancient and universal. Aristotle watches, eyes bright. See? Understanding begins not with language, but with kindness. The prince nods. Then perhaps kindness is the first wisdom. The philosopher smiles. And the last. As the sun climbs higher, they walk toward the village. Children chase each other through the streets, their laughter ringing through the air. An old woman offers them bread without asking who they are. Alexander accepts, bowing slightly, feeling a warmth he cannot name. He looks at his teacher. Do you think it's possible, he asks, for all men to live as one? Aristotle gazes at the horizon, where sky meets earth in seamless color. Perhaps not in our time, he says softly, but the dream itself is holy. Plant it where you can, and it will bloom in another age. That night, as they return to the courtyard, Alexander looks up at the stars. Each one shines alone, yet together they form constellations, patterns only visible when seen as a whole. He thinks of the circle in the dirt, of the shepherd, of the old woman's bread. He feels for the first time that mankind might be like the stars, separate in light, but united in their shared sky. Aristotle watches him quietly and says, "Remember this feeling, Alexander. When you are far from home, when the world calls you conqueror, remember that your truest victory would be peace." Socrates' voice drifts in, gentle as a dream, and so the young prince began to see that wisdom has no homeland, that beneath the languages, the colors, the crowns, all men are travelers under the same stars. He dreamed of one world, where knowledge, not birth, made men noble. A dream too vast for his age, yet a seed that still lives in ours. Rest now, listener. Let the stars outside your window remind you, you too are part of that great circle of souls. The night is wide, but it holds us all. When you wake, the next lesson awaits, the war within. The wind rises softly through the grove that night. It bends the olive branches and sends ripples across the surface of the pond. The stars seem to tremble in that water, bright, scattered, alive. Aristotle and Alexander sit together in the quiet. The fire has burned low. Its embers breathe a dull, steady glow. The lesson tonight will not be written in words, but in silence, in the long breath between thoughts. For what they are about to speak of is not the war of nations, but the war that every soul must one day face, the war within. Alexander is no longer the boy who first met his teacher. His shoulders have broadened, his eyes have grown sharper. There is strength in him now, but also restlessness, a hunger that learning alone cannot calm. He has begun to dream of far-off lands, of battles and banners, of a name that will outlive stone. Aristotle studies him with quiet care. He knows this fever, the desire to test one's wisdom in the world. Yet he also knows what it costs. At last, the philosopher speaks. "Tell me, Alexander," he says, "when the mind and the heart disagree, which one do you follow?" The prince hesitates. He has never been asked this before. "The heart," he says finally. "It burns brighter." Aristotle smiles faintly, a sad, knowing smile. And yet, fire that burns too bright consumes its bearer. He leans closer, his voice lowering to a near whisper. "Beware, my student, of the victory that breeds arrogance. When you think yourself a god, you forget that even gods fall." The words are gentle, but they pierce like arrows. Alexander looks away, uneasy. He wants to protest, to say he would never be that proud, but something in him stays silent. Because deep down, he knows that pride has already begun to whisper in his ear. The night deepens. Aristotle takes a stick and draws two figures in the sand before them. "This," he says, pointing to the first, "is the man who conquers others." He points to the second. "And this is the man who conquers himself. Tell me, Alexander, which one rules the greater kingdom?" Alexander studies the drawings. The answer feels obvious, yet heavy. "The second," he says quietly. Aristotle nods. "And yet, most men choose the first. Because to master oneself is a quieter victory, unseen, unpraised. It demands patience, humility, reflection. But it is the only conquest that never fades." He smooths the drawings away with his hand. "The greatest war is not fought with swords, but with the self." The prince stares into the dying fire. He feels a strange pull in his chest, part pride, part doubt. He wonders if wisdom and greatness can truly live in the same heart. He thinks of his father's conquests, of the cheers of soldiers, of the thrill of victory and the weight of command. And beneath it all, he feels something darker, the fear of being ordinary. Aristotle speaks again, softly, as if reading his thoughts. Every man fights two enemies, the world outside him and the one within. Defeat the second, and the first will never touch you. Alexander closes his eyes. The words move through him like a slow, healing current. He imagines the battlefield of his own mind, desire against discipline, anger against reason, pride against peace. He realizes that every lesson his teacher has given him, about reason, balance, kingship, and nature, was only training for this inner war. A single ember pops from the fire, landing near his hand. He watches it glow and fade, leaving a small circle of ash. He feels, in that fading light, a strange peace, the kind that comes when one finally stops running from their own reflection. He turns to his teacher. "Master," he says quietly, "how does one win such a war?" Aristotle looks at him for a long moment before replying. "You do not win it once," he says. "You win it each day, with every choice, every silence, every forgiveness." The prince nods slowly. He does not speak again. He simply watches the stars shift above them, each one steady and patient, holding its place against the dark. Socrates' voice drifts in, calm as the night. "I have seen this war too, my friend. For pride is a sharper poison than any cup of hemlock. And yet, humility is its cure, the medicine of the wise. So breathe, dear listener. Let your battles rest tonight. You need not conquer the world to find peace. You need only quiet the noise within. For beyond the war of thought and desire lies a gentler truth, a peace that has always been yours. Now close your eyes. The lesson of the heart is learned. And in the glow of the fading fire, a new one begins. The lesson of the Iliad and the meeting of courage and wisdom." The night is still. A silver moon watches over the quiet courtyard, and the fire burns low, its glow trembling softly across the stone. Aristotle sits with a small worn book in his hands, its edges frayed, its cover faded by time. Alexander watches curiously as his teacher turns the pages with reverence. The boy has seen many scrolls before, laws, maps, philosophies, but never has he seen his teacher handle one so gently. "This," Aristotle says softly, "is Homer's Iliad." He looks at the prince. "Do you know it?" Alexander nods. "My father spoke of Achilles, the hero who fought for glory." Aristotle's eyes narrow kindly. "Yes, but do you know what glory cost him?" The boy hesitates. "His life." The philosopher smiles. "And more, his peace." He opens the book and begins to read aloud, his voice slow and deep, carrying the rhythm of ancient memory. "Sing, O muse, of the rage of Achilles, the rage that brought countless sorrows." He closes the book and lets the words linger. "Even Homer began with rage," he says, "because the greatest battle is always the battle of the heart." Alexander listens quietly. He feels the truth of those words. He has felt that same fire, the pull between reason and passion, between greatness and peace. Aristotle continues. "Achilles was the mightiest of men, yet he fell not to an enemy but to his own pride. He believed that honor lay in triumph. But true honor, the philosopher says, is found in restraint." He leans closer, his tone gentle. "Read this when you are far from home, when victory blinds you. Let it remind you that courage is not only the charge of battle, it is the strength to forgive, to endure, to think." He hands the book to the prince. Alexander holds it carefully as if it were alive. This was my teacher's, Aristotle says softly, and his before him. Knowledge passes not through blood but through wisdom. The prince traces the edges of the pages, feeling the faint impressions of generations before him. What should I do with it? He asks. Keep it near, says the philosopher. When you march into darkness, let it be your light. When you hold a sword, let this remind you why you must wield it carefully. A sword may defend the body, but a story defends the soul. Alexander nods, his gaze lingering on the ancient text. He imagines Achilles standing on the shores of Troy, torn between fury and fate. He wonders if one day he too will face such a choice, between glory and goodness. Aristotle studies him quietly. He knows the boy's destiny is already unfolding, that one day his name will echo across continents. But for now he is only a student, sitting in the soft night, listening to the hum of cicadas and the whisper of an old tale. Achilles was strong, Aristotle says, but he lacked reflection. He could strike 1,000 blows, but never against the anger that ruled him. You, Alexander, must be greater, not in might, but in mastery. He pauses, letting the fire's soft hiss fill the silence. Let your victories be thoughtful, not impulsive. Let your fame come not from fear, but from fairness. The moon climbs higher, painting the courtyard in silver. Alexander lies back, resting the Iliad on his chest. The night hums gently, and the air smells faintly of smoke and olive leaves. He feels the weight of the book, and the weight of what it means. Aristotle rises, his shadow stretching long across the ground. Keep it beneath your pillow, he says, beside your dagger. The prince raises an eyebrow. My dagger? The philosopher smiles. Yes, for one is for the body and the other for the soul. You will need both. Socrates' voice returns, smooth as the wind that moves through temple columns. And so the boy kept the Iliad by his side, his two companions, steel and story. From Achilles he learned to act bravely. From Aristotle to act wisely. And perhaps it is always this way, that courage without wisdom burns and wisdom without courage fades. But together they light the path of destiny. The fire crackles one last time, a spark rising, then vanishing into the night. You too, dear listener, carry both weapons, your strength and your understanding. Guard them well, for together they are peace. Now close your eyes. The night grows deeper, and the next lesson waits, the immortality of knowledge. The wind moves softly through the colonnade. A faint hush covers Mysa, that sacred place where a philosopher once taught a prince. The torches along the stone path flicker, their light golden and slow. Aristotle sits by the dying fire, his hands folded, his eyes distant, as though seeing not the night before him, but 1,000 years beyond it. Alexander sits nearby, polishing the hilt of his dagger, his mind elsewhere. He is older now. The curiosity of youth has deepened into focus, and behind his eyes burns the quiet certainty of a destiny awakening. The fire crackles. The teacher finally speaks. Tell me, Alexander, he says, what remains when time takes all things away? The prince looks up. He thinks for a moment. Honor, he says, or perhaps memory. Aristotle smiles faintly. Both fade, he replies. Even marble wears down. Even the songs of heroes become whispers. What then endures? Alexander frowns, unsure. He opens his mouth to answer, but no words come. Aristotle turns to the fire. Knowledge, he says simply. Knowledge endures. The philosopher stirs the ashes with a stick. Fame fades, my son. Empires turn to dust. But wisdom, true wisdom, travels from mind to mind, from soul to soul. It cannot be buried. It cannot be conquered. He glances at the prince, his eyes soft with pride and sadness. I taught you not for Greece nor for kingship, but so that the light of understanding might live beyond us both. Alexander listens quietly, the words sinking deep into him. The night feels wider now, stretching far beyond the horizon, as if eternity itself leans closer to hear. Aristotle continues. Long before me, my teacher, Plato, sought truth beneath the world's shadows. And before him, my teacher's teacher, Socrates, chose death rather than silence. We are each a link in that unbroken chain, a chain stronger than empires. He looks to the stars, their cold light glimmering like distant thoughts. One day, he says, your victories will be forgotten. But the questions we ask tonight may still live in some far-off mind. Alexander stares into the sky beside him. He wonders if the stars themselves are ancient thoughts, the ideas of gods burning forever in the dark. A small silence follows. Then Alexander says quietly, but what good is knowledge if it cannot stop death? Aristotle smiles. Ah, he says, but it does. Not the death of the body, that is nature's way, but the death of meaning. As long as understanding continues, no life is wasted. He gestures toward the prince's chest. Every idea you carry, every truth you preserve, is a spark from that eternal flame. Guard it. Pass it on. Alexander looks down at his hands. He feels the invisible weight of that responsibility, heavier somehow than the sword he will one day carry. The fire burns lower. The night deepens into silver quiet. Aristotle's voice softens. One day the cities you build will crumble. The people who praise your name will vanish. But if, in your time, you plant even one seed of understanding, a thought that helps another live more wisely, you will have conquered death itself. He leans back, sighing, his gaze lost in the stars. Do you see, my student? This is the only immortality worth seeking. Alexander nods slowly. The world feels vast around him, yet he feels strangely light, as if part of him has joined the endless chain of wisdom. He realizes in that quiet hour that his teacher has already made him immortal, not through temples or treasures but through thought. He looks at Aristotle, who now seems less a man than a bridge between ages. Then perhaps, the prince whispers, you are already eternal. Aristotle smiles, his eyes glimmering like the last embers. Only as long as someone remembers, he says. And now, you will remember. The night grows silent, and in the distance an owl calls from the trees. Alexander closes the Iliad, laying it gently beside the fire. He knows now that every story, every lesson, every word spoken in wisdom, is a thread that binds souls across time. Socrates' voice returns, low and peaceful, and that perhaps is why you and I sit here tonight, still speaking of men long gone, yet never truly dead. For wisdom does not die. It travels from teacher to student, from mind to mind, from soul to soul. So rest now, listener. The torch has been passed to you as well. You carry it each time you seek to understand, each time you choose truth over noise. Let your mind be the vessel and your heart the flame. For soon the story will leave the classroom and step into the world, into conquest, distance, and longing. The next lesson begins where wisdom meets empire, in the distant march. The years have passed. The grove at Misa is silent now, its stone paths covered in moss, its fountain long dry. The voices that once filled it, of teacher and student, of reason and youth, now live only in memory. Far to the east, under a foreign sun, a great army moves like a silver tide across the sand. The banners of Macedonia rise and ripple against the desert wind. Drums echo through the morning haze. And at the head of this endless column rides Alexander, no longer a boy of curiosity, but a man whose name already carries the weight of myth. He has conquered lands his teacher never saw. He has crossed rivers no Greek has ever named. Cities fall at his feet, kings bow to his will. The world seems smaller now, and yet his heart somehow feels emptier. In the quiet between campaigns, he often withdraws to his tent. There, beneath the noise of the soldiers and the scent of dust and iron, he opens an old, worn book, the Iliad. Its pages are yellowed, the edges torn by travel. Inside, written in the faded ink of another hand, are the words of his teacher. Power without wisdom consumes itself. Alexander reads them slowly, again and again, as though they were a spell against the darkness growing inside him. At night, he walks alone outside his camp. The stars above Persia are the same that once watched over Misa. The constellations have not changed, only he has. He remembers Aristotle's voice. The world is not yours to possess, but to guide. He wonders if he has forgotten that guidance somewhere along the way. The earth beneath him is strange, the language of the people foreign, but their laughter, their fears, their songs, all are familiar. He recalls the lesson of unity, how mankind is bound together like stars in one vast sky. And he feels a pang of sorrow that he must bring them peace through conquest. One evening in Babylon, a messenger arrives from the west. He brings scrolls from Greece, the writings of philosophers, the notes of scholars, and a letter sealed with wax. It is from Aristotle. The prince, now king, breaks the seal with trembling hands. The parchment smells faintly of olive oil and home. The letter reads only this: "Remember, my student, the greatest journey is not the one that crosses lands, but the one that crosses the heart." Alexander closes his eyes. He presses the scroll to his chest. For a moment he is no longer a conqueror. He is a boy again, sitting in the grove, listening to the hum of bees, watching a philosopher draw circles in the dust. Then, with warmth and gentleness, he continues, "You need not be a philosopher to walk the path of wisdom. It begins with one act: to notice, to listen, to care. Wisdom is not the roar of certainty, but the quiet that follows understanding." The voice grows softer. The fire burns low. The stars have taken their watch. Let the night remind you that you too are both student and teacher. That the search for truth is never finished, only passed on. The candle flickers once, then steadies. Outside, the horizon begins to pale, the faintest hint of dawn breaking beyond the sea. The world is waking, but the lesson does not end. It breathes now in you. Every question you carry is part of it. Every thought, a continuation. And in that way, the voices of the ancients never fade. They live in the spaces between your own thoughts, guiding gently, patiently, as they always have. So rest now, traveler. Let the wisdom of the ages cradle your dreams. The night has spoken, its work is done. And when you open your eyes again, remember, you are part of the same light that once burned in the mind of a philosopher, in the heart of a student, and in the stars above all thought. Welcome always to ancient wisdom.